Welcome! Today I'll show you how to draw a Greek temple and use scraps of paper from around the home to give it color and texture, like this one. Here's what you'll need. Some paper, and I'll be using A4 here, but bigger like A3 is usually better to show some of the details. You'll also need an eraser or a rubber, a pencil and a black pen, some glue, and I have hobby glue here, but a glue stick is usually better, and some colored paper from around the house. Now I have some old envelopes here, a few adverts I ripped out of magazines, and some chocolate wrappers, but anything like thin tissue paper, anything that's colorful will work. So the first thing we have to do is draw a Greek temple, and we will be drawing a Doric 6-column temple. We'll only be drawing the front of it, and this is based on the temple of Zeus at Olympia, but it's not exactly the same. So that's what we will be drawing. We'll start with the steps at the bottom here, move on to the columns, and then do the top. Okay, so how to draw the steps? It's very simple. You just have to have your pencil, and then steps at the end should be about 1 centimeter rectangles, like that. And then I'm going to move to the other side of the paper and do the same. And then I'm going to join them. I'm going to flip the paper over because that's easier. So this is what happened on the other side here, and I had to make sure they join up essentially. But that's okay. Okay, and that's the base of our temple. It has 3 steps. That's essentially what the style of it is. Now is the difficult task. We have to draw a column, and we'll be drawing Doric columns. I'm gonna even this out a little bit. We need to start just slightly away from the first step. So I'm gonna start here and draw the base of the column, just basically a rectangle, and then go up for the column. I'm not gonna go all the way up the paper. Okay, so I think that's about it. And at the bottom there's usually carved 2 lines. You don't need to add them. Okay, and then at the top it's very important that our temple has a capital. And the Doric capital is very simple. That's why we've chosen the Doric one. It's basically rounded. And then at the top of it is another rectangle that sticks out a little bit over it. Okay, and then there's these 2 lines below. That's it. That's a Doric column. And now you just have to repeat that 6 times, which is what I'm going to do. So don't worry if it goes like wonky, you can use an eraser and fix it as you go. Okay, let's go. My biggest problem is always spacing them out, so making sure all 6 fit here, so I will usually be making corrections at this end here. Okay, so that's our 6 columns done, and as I said, each one is a little bit different. We've got about the lines here, these are shorter than these, that doesn't matter. We have 6 columns, let's keep going. So what we're going to do now is we're going to draw the entablature. The entablature is just a bit that rests on the capitals and holds up the roof. It's quite simple. The way I do it is I just join up all the columns, starting here. That's why it's quite important that they're similar size, but okay, we're just going to shave off a bit of this one here. And it ends slightly outside of the column capitals. And it has 2 parts to it. It has the architrave and the frieze. You don't need to know any of these words. Alright, and then on top of the entablature, we have the pediment. And the pediment is the triangle on the top of the Greek temple. That's the roof, so it has to be something like this. Now, I'm going to try as hard as I can to make it meet up in the middle, but that's always really difficult. You can fold your paper in half to find that point. If you're very particular, I'm just going to try. Like drawing from here very gently with my pencil. that's the pediment. Okay, so inside the pediment, we would usually have carved figures. We're not going to do that. We're not going to draw them. But we are going to draw the frieze, and Doric temple friezes usually have what's called metopes and triglyph pattern. It's very simple and it's a lot of fun to decorate. That's why we're going to do it. It's basically squares that they would be carved as well. On the temple of Zeus, the labors of Heracles. So that's a square. And then a triglyph, which is a rectangle with 3 little rectangles inside it. So we're just going to put 2 lines in it, and I'm going to do that throughout the frieze. So that's our Greek temple almost done. What I am going to do now is trace it in black pen so that it doesn't smudge while I'm working on it. All I'm doing here is just tracing the columns and the rest of the temple in black pen, and I'm correcting a few weird lines as I go. Now that that's done, it's time for the fun colouring bit. What I have is scraps of paper arranged by different colours on the side, like this. I also have my glue. What I have is hobby glue, which is water soluble, and that makes it easier to clean later. I've also put scraps of paper underneath my temple so I don't make too much of a mess. So the first thing to do is decide what colour I want and where. So I've decided I want my columns in blue and steps in brown, and then for the pediment I'm going to use various colours to show that normally it's carved with different figures and painted with different patterns. I will use different colours for the triglyphs as well, and to bear in mind is that it's really fun because you can show colour and texture. Take your piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to go with blue first, tear off a bit like that, and crumple it up in your fingers, like this. Then take some glue and you spread it on the column, and you put your rolled up paper on the glue. You take another scrap, you roll it up, you put it in the glue. Now with this kind of glue, I usually just pat it a little bit and then wait for it to stick, but if you have a different type of glue, you have to kind of check what to do. And then you just continue doing this until it's all covered. And it's up to you how big or small you make the little rolled up pieces of paper, and that will give you a different effect. And I'll show you a few things you can do next. So I'm continuing using blue here on the column, but I'm going to swap to a different shade of blue to give it a bit of a different look to it, and I'm going to fill up the column, and then for the capital I'm going to use purple to make sure that it looks different. For the first 2 columns I've decided to do something different and not roll up the pieces of paper, instead giving it that kind of mosaic look. It's also much faster, but I've kept to my colour scheme. You can also see here that at this point I'm using a pen or the rubber to help me line up the pieces of paper because my fingers are really sticky. All 6 are now done and finished. We're going to move on to the metopes, the triglyphs and the pediment. So for the triglyphs I decided to go with pink and yellow. For the metopes and the architrave, I at first thought of doing blue in this mosaic way, but it was just too much blue, so I'm going to change that later. And then I moved on to the pediment, which I did in a variety of colours, and that's to show the different carvings and colours that it would normally have. Here's my temple in all its finished, beautiful colours. Fun fact, while today most of the colour is gone, there's abundant evidence that Greek temples were painted when they were originally made. I used gold for the architrave, black, red and brown from chocolate wrappers in the steps, and I decided to leave the metopes blank because it was just too much colour. I hope you have lots of fun with this activity. If you make it big on A3 paper, it's really easy for the whole family to get stuck in, as everybody can do their bit of the temple and it all comes together at the end.